This week on Scotty's Toolbox, we're going to be taking a look at the Kaiweets articulating Borescope. Ooh, there it is. Very fancy. So the team at Kaiweets sent this out to me just before I left to the US, and it's taken me until now to get to it, so I do apologise for that. But articulating borescopes are very handy things. I've used them several times on the Carnage show to inspect bores in cylinders, inspect clearance between crankshafts and conrods and all sorts of stuff. So very handy things to have. And by all accounts, this thing is very reasonably priced. Now, some of the borescopes I've used previously have been as much as $1,800. This is somewhere around the $100 US mark. I say $100 US because they sent me a link to put up, and there's a product code as well for you guys if you want to go and buy one, and we'll see what this is like. But if it works at all, it's worth the money, isn't it? But yeah, the Australian product code didn't seem to work, so there might be some issues with Australian viewers getting hold of one. However, you could probably order it through Amazon or somewhere like that. And from what I've seen on Amazon, prices are anywhere between $90 and $150 US. So, you know, generally cheaper. So yeah, very reasonably priced compared to $1,800. There we go. Comes in its nice little case there. I'm opening it up at the same time as you guys are seeing it, so I have not played with it at all. So this is all fresh and new. It's a nice little case. Instruction manual. They protect the screen, and it has a nice long cord on it. I think it's 1.5 meters or something like 5 feet. So that is quite impressive. And of course, the end turns whichever way you want. Well, generally in a 180 degree, well, it'll come back on itself, but it turns in a direct line. So if you're going to have to, if you need to twist it slightly, which you can, and then you can turn and face it wherever you want. But yeah, the cord is quite flexible. That's great. It's extremely flexible and semi-rigid as well, so it'll hold its shape. So if you need to get in a certain angle and get it to peer around a certain angle, it's not just going to flop around like a wet noodle. It's going to hold its shape to where you need to go, which is important. Trust me. There's nothing worse than a wet noodle trying to point that. All right, so I have not powered this up at all. Okay, we've got some sort of little accessory there. I'll investigate what that's about. A charge cord, which is USB-A to USB-C. So it'll double for your phone charger as well if you're a Samsung man like myself. But yeah, that's handy. Always handy to have another cord. Although probably keep it with the box so you can charge this thing up. All right, so I'm hoping there is some charge in it. So let's hit the power button and see what happens. Well, looked like something happened there. There we go. It says camera. And if I point it at the screen, it'll show you guys there. And you can see there's a light on the end, which is very handy. I mean, we'll need that. But yeah, moves around quite well. Now what else we got down there? The light can be turned on and off. I think. There we go. There we go, on and off. There is a snapshot function, so if you see what you need to see and take a photo, you can take a photo. Even comes with a noise. Very nice. And There's a temperature sensor there on it as well. I guess that's just to keep abreast of screen temperature. I'm going to pull the screen protector off because it's mine now. And yeah, the screen is quite clear. I'll show that up to you guys. So, showing back to the camera. Now, obviously, it's not really designed to show things in large format. So, you know, there's the AU behind the camera. There's my ugly mug. Right, obviously need to orientate it that way. Geez, don't want to close up of that. But let's go poke it down the bore of the AU and see what it looks like in there. Hopefully we don't find anything too nasty. Now, a borescope like this has a lot of uses, whether it be automotive, aircraft, marine, anywhere where you need to look in somewhere where it's too tight to get your eyeballs in. But also buildings and plumbing. I mean, you want to find where a wall stud is. Maybe you've got a hole in the wall. You can just poke this in and see where the next stud is, or wherever, or whatever you need to find. So they have a lot of uses. Right now, I'm going to poke it down the bore of our AU Falcon. Obviously, I need to fire this thing up. There's a little bit of surface rust around the top of the bore. I think that's the line at the top of the bore between the bore and the cylinder head. And that's pretty natural. I mean, you know, it is on E85 and it has been sitting for a while, so that's quite interesting. Now, if I was to turn this around, let's go the other way. There we are. We can see at the top of the piston, it is very clear. And certainly the bore isn't in the condition that I'd like to see, but hey, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have looked. All right, there's our turbine wheel. Still has all its blades, which is handy to see. But, you know, given the bend in the pipe, there's no way we would see that without sticking the camera down there. A little bit of surface rust on the housing, but again, that's natural with E85 and sitting for a while. You get up close, lots of detail there. As you can see, the detail is quite good. Or maybe you want to take a look down an oil gallery like this big block Chrysler engine. Let's have a look. Whoa. It's actually dirtier than I thought. I'm going to have to clean that out. Okay, just some specs on the camera. The resolution is 1080p. It has a focal length of between 2 and 10 centimeters, which is pretty wide for, you know, that smaller camera. But obviously, yeah, if you get closer than 2 centimeters, it's not going to be any good for you. But yeah, charges via the port on the side, and also has a micro SD card slot there, and it actually came with a micro SD card in there as well. So pop that out. Let's have a look. 32 gig. That's a nice little addition. So obviously you can take your photos, have them on the card there, pull them off and have a look at them on a bigger screen if you need to, which is very handy. The temperature thing I mentioned before, it's showing 41 degrees right now. It has an overheating sensor, so if it gets to 75 degrees Celsius, it will pop up a warning, and if it gets to 80 degrees, it will shut off to protect the camera, and then it'll come back on when it cools down. below 80 degrees Celsius. So it will protect itself. It is waterproof to IP67, and the charge time takes about 3 hours to charge, although it came, more than half charged to me, and the battery life is something like 3.5 hours, which is more than enough for anything you'll need. So that's handy to know as well. So, do you need yourself a little articulating Borescope camera in your life? I think you do, because when you need one of these, you don't need them all the time, but when you do need one, it's for something important. And it's better to poke one of these down a hole and see what's wrong with something, but then pull it apart and find out. Because generally, if you're pulling an engine apart to find a problem, it's going to cost you more than this camera will. So you may pull an engine apart and find out it wasn't the problem that you're looking for after all, and you just wasted, several $100s looking for a problem that wasn't there, where you could have stuck the camera in there and found the problem, or not, so to speak. So yeah, is it worth having? I think it is. Do you need to get one? I think you do.